Hi, everyone. Welcome to this very interesting session that we have with product leaders where we'll be talking about IPL and mega sporting events and how blue chip companies really capitalize on that and the challenges that they face and how they work towards these challenges. We have some very interesting panel members today. We have Shubham Choudhary, who's currently the growth and product leader at Quizizz, but has experience of having led teams at Swiggy as a director of product management at Swiggy. And he's seen that a wave of, IPL and sports related, a surge while at Swiggy as well. We have Ashwin Goyal, who is the group product manager at Disney Plus Hotstar. And also is an ex-colleague of Shubham. He's worked with Shubham. They've both been in the product team at Swiggy. So looking at getting, the OTT perspective and also the Swiggy perspective from Ashwin. We have Amlan Chanda, who's our director and head of payouts and verification at Cashfree Payments, where we see a lot of action during IPL. So really looking forward to talking about all those interesting things that we see from a payments perspective across industries. And last but not the least, we have Ravi Shekhar, who is the AVP for platform experience at Mobile Premier League. Again, in the thick of action, we are really excited to have Ravi talk about, as IPL pans out, what kind of interesting trends, insights that we see from a gaming perspective. And my name is Aditi Olemann. I get product marketing at Cashfree Payments and super excited to talk more about it. So we just jump right in. I'll start with Shubham. Shubham, tell us a little bit more about consumer trends and buying behavior that you have observed at Swiggy during IPL and similar, mega events, big events.
Yeah, okay. So let me just first say these kind of events were pretty big for a company like Swiggy or any food delivery, especially let's say food delivery category. Not just IPL. IPL probably is the second biggest event that we have. The biggest one obviously is the New Year Eve. Then there are other events like Rakhi, Mother's Day. Then there are personal events like birthdays, anniversary. Overall, these kind of events play a big role in driving growth for a company like Swiggy. And really provides an opportunity to drive new user and reactivation of users during that period. Now, coming to consumer trends, as you would expect, we get a spike in demand during IPL. That is primarily fueled by just the nature of the category and what IPL is. It's effectively entertainment, and food and entertainment kind of goes together. It happens right in the meal time. So right at the time of dinner or snacks. So it kind of fits perfectly where you are sitting at home, and we are a food delivery company. So you are delivering food at home. So consumer is sitting at home watching the match with their friends and family. So that kind of triggers a lot of purchase. And like for a lot of Indian companies, IPL primarily might be a awareness driver. Like are creating a lot of top of funnel awareness about your brand. But for a category like Swiggy, it's not just awareness. It's like you build awareness and you can actually trigger purchase during the event itself. And that is why it kind of becomes a really good opportunity for you to drive growth, both in terms of awareness as well as actual new user acquisition and reactivation. Just to also add, it's not just food delivery, grocery delivery, Instamart, Zepto. For all of them, I think this is a very good category. This is a very good event to actually drive growth.
Interesting, because I was about to ask, do you see that surge, mostly with food, or do you also see Instamart and Winnie's and other, other products that you have in your kitty, right? So do you see a similar surge across the board, or is it primarily?
Wherever you have snacks, Aditi, I think it kind of goes there. So
is a big trend that you see, I'm guessing. Yeah, because food is still, you plan for your meal, but when you're watching a match, you really want to snack on something. So that definitely probably happens.
I have an anecdote to add here. That I was at my boss's place and we were talking about just cricket in general. And I think someone said, we were like a month away from the IPL tournament, and someone said, oh, so like the match is next week, right? And there was like, the person miscalculated the date. There was panic in the room that, oh my God, is it next week? Wait, my plans are 4 weeks out. Like, so it's a very important thing for the team to get right. There are very specific targets that they take that, IPL is gonna like lift all our boats. So
Got it.
yeah.
And you have like war room setups of sorts. What does what does the office look like? A couple
I
of
mean,
weeks.
at least my team was never in a war room. Maybe Shubham's team was. He can comment.
Yeah. So, I think at Swiggy, there was war rooms everywhere. You have people kind of figuring out how to. And Swiggy, it's interesting because our planning was slightly longer, not just from tech and engineering point of view, because IPL is not just about growing Swiggy, but also helping restaurants grow, right? So it really started, it starts like 2-3 months before the planning, and you actually are working with restaurants across 500 cities to get those discounts, then create that messaging on the app, create the messaging off app, figure out the advertisement plan, figure out the merchandising plan, all of that. And really towards the end, you have to execute everything. And that's where a lot of madness happens. You have to figure out push notifications. You have to figure out merchandising, design. We also, in general, every IPL, we were kind of trying out new gamification ideas. So you kind of try to build them really fast as well. So that is one kind of war room, which was specifically around growth. And then operations also has to really react to what's happening. So that's the other kind of war room, where if you do something, you get a spike in demand. How do you service it in the most effective way? So it's pretty big overall, not as big as New Year Eve, but still big.
Yeah, but I would say that, it is
such a big event.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I'll add is that, what Shubham is saying is active like 9 months out of 12. Like you talk about Swiggy's event calendar, there is something happening every other day, maybe even more than that. So there's always a war room, basically, in a hyperlocal company.
Yeah. Yes.
You're constantly at war, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I would love to get the gaming perspective, Ravi. How does your office look like, right, during IPL? What kind of interesting trends do you see? Any cool experiments, any A/B tests that you'd want to talk about? Would love to hear.
Well, yeah. So starting with the first question, obviously the energy is very infectious. Everybody is very excited. Obviously, this is one of the biggest events for any gaming company. So yeah, we also have war rooms when the match starts and the match ends and all of that. In terms of trends, there are many things, but one of the key things that actually stood out for me when I joined gaming was that a lot of online searches happen for online gaming, right? I mean, people tend to search more about gaming, online gaming. And out of that, obviously, 50% of it is related to cricketing games like fantasy or a bunch of other games that we have. About half of it, 50% of it is also for other games, casual games, Ludo, Snakes and Ladder, card games. So, and people, new users who come in, 50% of them play cricketing games, but the rest of them also play other games. And so that's an interesting insight that Indian audience is not just hungry for cricketing games, but also there is equal appetite and excitement for casual games and card games.
Very interesting. So you see a similar surge.
Yes.
For non-cricketing games also. Very interesting. So people are just in a more joyful mood. I think they just want to play more during the period like IPL.
Exactly. So while the traffic increases obviously during the match time, but for a multi-gaming platform like us, it's anyway higher than usual all the time. Even after 7:30 when the match starts, the traffic is on the higher side from the usual baseline. Yeah.
Got it. Very interesting. So, I mean, it's so nice to see perspective across food, gaming, OTT, right? We'll talk, Ashwin wanted to get the OTT point of view as well. I mean, you guys are, of course, in the front of the action, right? They're all watching on OTT. So, what does a sports persona look like, from an OTT point of view? And how is an OTT, sports watcher sports fan different from, let's say, the cable sports fan?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think, on one hand, you have the fanatics, who are probably watching every ball of every game. And then there's like some slow follower, probably like me, who's tuning into the last over or maybe just the finals, right? I think most fans fall somewhere between these two extremes. And I think they're looking for distraction, that they are going on about their day. It is not that cricket is the only thing on their mind, but they do want to be distracted in moments throughout the day. So, given that I would say 80 or 90% of them are on mobile, they probably consume a game in like 4 or 5 20-minute sessions. So they're not tuning in throughout the game. Game gets interesting. They come in, they watch, let's say, the last 5 overs of the first innings, then come back when the game gets interesting, right? That way, I think they're looking for that distraction. And I would say compared to TV, to the second part of your question, or cable, the mobile users outnumber TV users like 10:1, right? But TV users are better for the platform for everyone. They represent affluence. The fact that there's a TV in your home is a marker of affluence. They probably have more attention span. Like when you're watching TV, you're kind of sitting back. There are 4 people watching. That TV is not going to turn off, basically, right? But when you're on your mobile, there are a WhatsApp message comes, you kind of go off app and you may not come back. So I think compared to cable, mobile represents a more suitable kind of surface area for a person who's looking for that distraction, right? Whereas I think a TV is a more, I would say, lean back kind of experience, right? Like I'm sitting back in my chair, I'm just chilling. I'm probably on my phone as well at the same time, right? So I think, if from a monetization perspective, I think the TV market is more monetizable. But from a scale perspective, which is what I think what cricket is all about, it's about acquiring that scale, right? I think mobile is where the game is at.
Interesting. And do you see a similar surge for let's say, cricket content around the same time, or does the other content stay flat and it's only the spike for? Do you see them then end up being more in the platform once they come?
Yeah, I think it's the same as, let's say, food delivery, right? Where the core product is now much more in demand. Like for them, it might be food. For us, it might be sports content. But when sports users come in, I think it's clear to every OTT player, or it should be, that sports content by itself cannot be monetized to an extent where you can make the money back. Right? Whatever you pay for the rights and hosting and the bandwidth and everything, you cannot make it back. Like if one game costs X million dollars, you're not going to make X million dollars back in revenue. That means you need to cross-sell. Like it's inevitable. That means, whether you want it or not, there will be a push to consume other content on the platform. We will try to convert you into paying users while you come to watch cricket. Maybe there will be a, watch this game in 4K kind of nudge, right? So content itself will be free. Most of it will be cricket. But because the platform is invested in getting you to consume other content, the other content consumption will always go up.
Got it. Very, very interesting, Ashwin. And while you talk about the front-end action, there's a lot of action that happens on the back end as well, right? The infrastructure players supporting, and payments is one of them. We have Amlan here, and we've seen at Cashfree, right, how we have similar war rooms, we have similar processes set up whenever there's a big scale event like IPL, right? So Amlan, from a payments perspective, would love to hear from you. What are those different industries where we see a spike or changes during big events, not just IPL, but other big events like big sale events, or even, Holi, Diwali, etc., right? And what are those, from a payments perspective, what metrics do we look at when we are gearing ourselves for these big scale events?
Sure. Thanks a lot for the question, Aditi. So I'll answer the first question first, right? So, of course, during IPL, those 2.5 months, right, we see unprecedented scale in terms of incoming payments, outgoing payments, right? But in general, e-commerce, logistics, the volume actually increases, right? So we see a similar trend in, say, October, right? When, say, Meesho has their sale or the Independence Day sale happens, right? Our platforms are tested to the limit, okay? In terms of the preparation, right? I just want to take a moment to address that, right? Our preparation for IPL particularly actually starts somewhere in December or January, where we reach out to our top merchants to see if there is anything else which is required from a payment perspective, from a paying perspective, payout perspective, right? We have a bunch of merchants, so I can talk more about, say, payouts. Right? So payouts is like, there are merchants who run payouts on their own bank account, right? So we say that in case of the scale increasing, right, do you want to connect other bank accounts, right? So all those prep work has to be completed by February, right? Maximum by first week of March, because towards, like, once we are near the IPL, we actually don't do any deployments. We have a moratorium on deployments, right? Very specific things which are done, right? Of course, for us, more than the platform, it is the support which we provide to our merchants, which we take immense pride in, right? So in fact, during IPL, our support is available till 3 a.m. because what happens usually is that once at 7, right, when the toss happens, that's when the PG actually spikes because people are buying into these games, right? And then when about 11:15, right, when the match winner is declared, that is when the payout spikes, right? Because now people are withdrawing their winnings, right? So from about 11 p.m. at night to about 12, right, we see a constant stream of incoming payouts, right, which are system processes. You also asked about metrics, right? So on any given day during IPL, our TPS, which is transactions per second, right, the number of transactions we process in a second, will spike to about 6x easily at about 7.75, right? And if other gateways are having any issue, then it can spike to as much as 10x or 12x, right? And of course, the systems are horizontally scalable. There is a lot of engineering going in terms of visibility, observability, right? We do a bunch of cool things like on payouts, right? You can monitor the performance of beneficiary banks, right? If you go to status.cashfree.com, right, you can actually see how beneficiary banks are performing with respect to incoming payments, right? So the partner banks whom we are using or who our merchants are using to pay out, right? Those metrics are definitely available on the dashboard, right? Real time. But even the Benny incidents are available, right? It's a very powerful mechanism. We have APIs, webhooks, which are exposed for beneficiary downtimes where our merchants can actually show to their gamers or their customers, right, that this particular beneficiary bank right now is experiencing the downtime. Why don't you give another bank account or another UPI handle to process, right? So I mean, overall, amazing time, right? 2.5 months. Our AOPs, the annual operating plan, has to account for it separately, right? Because after May, June again, things sort of slowly settle down. But then it's a race on how to get those volumes back by the end of the year. So yeah, that's a typical year for us.
Absolutely. No, that's, I mean, I know, I've seen that, right? That it's a whole different time of the year, even for payments. So thanks so much for giving us that insight, Amlan. Also talking about, product integrations, Shubham, Swiggy keeps doing very interesting integrations with other brands and, even campaigns with other brands. Tell us a little bit about, innovative product integrations that have happened during your time at Swiggy, right? Any ideas, any wow moments?
Yeah.
During your time, would love to hear about that.
Yeah. So one of the things that we did, I think back in 2018 or 2017, I'm actually not able to remember properly which year is what was that, but we did Swiggy Sixes, which I think a lot of people know about it till today, but it only ran for 10 days, but it was really powerful. The campaign specifically was every time a 6 is hit in an IPL, for the next 6 minutes, you get 60% off. So you really have to open the app and find the coupon and really apply in the next 6 minutes. The 666 combination made for really good marketing line. What we used to see is every time a 6 was hit, we had a huge spike in traffic and orders. Then it will come down. Then another 6, it will go up and then come down. It was a great lever for acquisition, actually, getting new users, getting dormant users, and pretty big success in terms of growth at least. However, we kind of shut it down in 10 days, primarily because of the spiky demand. We were not able to maintain serviceability and, let's say, delivery, being able to service deliveries to customer in the best way possible. And Swiggy is probably one of the most consumer-centric organization. So even though we were getting a lot of demand, the campaign was really good, but then we eventually said, hey, we can't do this because we can't service these orders properly. There is some version of that we have discussed over the years of trying out, which doesn't cause that spike. But yeah, I mean, that was one of the interesting things that we did, kind of got a lot of traffic because of that. Another interesting thing was with Hotstar. I think Ashwin was not there back then. Ashwin was in Swiggy. we integrated with Hotstar so that you could order right from Hotstar app. So on the mobile app, you could have a Swiggy button. It opens up and it showed the Swiggy Pop menu. I don't know if you guys remember Swiggy Pop. It was like dish purge discovery. So you click on a button on Hotstar and there were about 6-7 items that you could just order from there. So that was another interesting thing that we did. Got massive traffic there. Not much orders, but I think the success was just in driving engagement and driving eyeballs and getting traffic onto Swiggy Pop and Swiggy in general. So these were two interesting things. Beyond that, every IPL, I think food delivery companies try out all sorts of gamification. Predict and win is big. Then there are other sorts of gamification elements where you collect runs and at the end you will get some discounts. All those experiments keep on happening every IPL. Every IPL there's a new idea which you want to try out.
Very, very exciting. Very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that, Shubham.
Yeah.
Ashwin, from an OTT standpoint again, we often talk about the fact that all the OTTs are competing for the same set of eyes, right? But do you actually see IPL being, or major sporting events being one time when there's an incremental consumption overall, or is it more just redirecting attention from a rival OTT app? How do you see that?
Right. I would actually say that it goes beyond rival apps as well. Is that the average user is consuming social media in the form of entertainment as well. It's not that I'm connecting with my friend or anything. It's that I'm opening reels and consuming them. So if you think about the user's attention span, I think during an average day, they are probably peanut buttering their attention on like 10 apps. There's like a couple of minutes on Reels, like a few minutes of YouTube, some Facebook, some Instagram, etc., right? I think on game days, what an OTT player is effectively buying is that they're stealing attention from these other apps. That I will pay an exorbitant sum, per game, so that for X hours, my user is paying attention only to me. Does that mean the hours spent on consumption of entertainment have gone up? I'm not convinced. I think it's just like, taking our attention, bringing it here, which means that we have to monetize it better than Instagram, which is like the difficult part where, like, let's say Amlan was talking about payments, right? Like getting a user to pay on TV is harder, right? Even though TV consumption is better. So then the question I think OTT players have to answer is that, okay, we stole the attention at a very high cost. Now, how do we effectively monetize it? I think that's where the industry is right now.
Got it. Interesting. Very interesting. There are a couple of questions that have come in as well. So I'll try to take them as we go. I think there's one question for Ravi. This is on MPL specifically. Ravi, what kind of challenges does MPL face in terms of scaling up operations during IPL and ensuring fair play and security in the gaming environment?
Sure. Well, in terms of challenges, obviously at scale, sometimes upstream systems face challenges, be it upstream systems, I mean to say the PGs, the beneficiary bank, or sometimes NPCI or networks. So yeah, I mean, we often see that, and these times you would hear last couple of days also, if you see SBI has been down, they had taken downtime on 1st April, then yesterday also there was some fluctuation. So that becomes a very challenging part. One interesting thing, which in my view is also concerning, is that while we've all been talking about UPI and with all due respect, UPI has changed the game, but we've all put all our eggs in one basket, especially for gaming. The kind of coverage and the kind of obviously the adoption that we see on UPI. It's tremendous, right? I can't reveal the percentage, but it's very high. Obviously, the biggest payment method for us. And when that goes down, the kind of TG that we cater to, you can't expect a gamer to immediately switch to credit card or to net banking, which is very troublesome, right? And net banking is still not that efficient. So that leaves us helpless at times. What do you do when SBI is down, NPCI is down? Obviously, you can do all sort of messaging on the app, educate the user about what bank, when is down and all of that. But that is a difficult problem to solve for. And obviously, one way to solve for is to reduce your dependency or have a backup plan apart from the bank rails. I mean, say you have kind of wallets where people, or you can solve for it by encouraging users to maintain their balance beforehand. But still, it still stands as one of the biggest challenges. So this is on money in part. Also on similar lines, you have payouts. I mean, if SBI is down, or if there is IMPS downtime, or there is some maintenance activity, obviously payouts will fail. And now there are innovative ways by which our partners like Cashfree have helped us, wherein you queue it, you look at the health of the rail, and then you resume it, things like that. But still, we do see failures, we do see delays. And in these times of instant gratification, if there is delay in withdrawal, which is the aha moment for a user, if there is delay, obviously the user is going to be irate, right? So at scale, success rate is a problem, definitely. It's on both sides. And when I say success rate, let's say on payout side, sometimes we do optimize for it, but then there is a higher turnaround time of processing, which is again a concern, which is as bad as poor success rate, right? So yeah, that's one of the biggest challenges in terms of scaling. Not predominantly for NPL as a merchant, but obviously with the help of the entire industry. I mean, obviously, if upstream systems go down, we need their help. So yeah, I mean that's one big challenge. Apart from that, I think as an industry, as a payment industry, we've come a long way. All thanks to all the innovative players, all the innovation that each of you have brought. It has helped all the digital businesses for sure. In terms of fraud and security, obviously, we are the safest platform, as we say, in India, and the reason being that we take fraud, security and safety very, very seriously. So right from the moment a user logs in, we have all kinds of intelligence, which is device-based intelligence, mobile number-based intelligence. We leverage a lot of AI and ML models for in-game, monitoring. Based on your gameplays, we observe it very closely, and we have ML-based models that are always on top of it. Then also we do a lot of transaction monitoring. So right from login to your first game, to your deposits, to your gameplays, to your withdrawals, obviously KYC in the beginning. So all of that is monitored very, very closely, and all kinds of intelligence in terms of device, mobile number-based intelligence, your in-game behavior, then your certain other ratios that we see, for example, deposit to withdrawal ratio and KYC. So basis all of these things, we have very, very robust and strong anti-cheat models, which are very, very preemptive, very, very proactive, that help us, keep our platform fraud-free.
Great, very interesting, Ravi. Thank you so much. I think the first point you mentioned, I'm going to ask a follow-up question on that to Amlan, because we talked about not putting all the eggs in one basket, especially from a downtime success rate, and especially for gaming, it's very critical, right? The kind of volumes that you see. So Amlan, both from a payment gateway perspective as well as from a disbursal payouts perspective, right? As a payment expert, like what are the things that you can recommend? Is routing the option? What kind of things can companies be looking at? I'm sure, big folks like MPL are already doing that, but for emerging companies also, right? What are the things that should be looked at in terms of balancing out issues of success rate, downtime, etc.?
Correct. So I'm going to answer it both, like once from the PG perspective and then from the PO perspective, right? So, and I think Ravi was also talking about that, right? That redundancy is very important, right? And what we have realized, right, is that our merchants need a lot of flexibility at the same time as they need redundancy, right? So we have something called Flowwise. So Flowwise is our orchestration layer on the PG side, right? Very powerful. You can do it. It can be deployed on the cloud, right? And you can hit it. It also, you can actually deploy it inside your own VPC also, right? So which means that no data is going out. There is no another dependency but being created on a third party, right? That if that third party goes down, all your connections behind that are jeopardized, right? So I mean, yes, very, very flexible in terms of routing rules based on cost, based on SR, time of day, right? A bunch of things, right? So that creates, that actually helps. Sometimes merchants can have a direct rail as well, right? All those things get plugged in, right? So yeah, I mean, that is one of the things which we are very, very hopeful that is going to significantly add value to our merchants. In a lot of cases, companies like MPL and others, right, they have to invest a lot on the payment handling itself, right? Now there's one school of thought saying we need to have more control as a merchant on our platform, right, or on the flow. But the point is that it just makes more sense for someone to do it for them, right? Because they can just then focus on their core experience, which is say gaming or OTT, right? Ravi was also talking about fraud monitoring, prevention, and those kind of things, right? So yeah, I mean, on the PG side, yes, those are some of the things which we do. On the PO side, right? So PO, our stack was a router to begin with, right? So you can pre-fund it, and you can basically, we will take care of the whole life cycle from initiation to reconciliation, right? And a bunch of things are done to ensure that the merchant does not need to worry. Again, as Ravi was mentioning, there are times when the success rate can go down. There are times when the SR is stable, but the TAT increases, right? And we monitor both, right? Because it should not happen that the gamers sort of click the button today and tomorrow they are getting the money, right? It just is not a good experience, right? Then there are certain subtle challenges also, right? So one challenge I could think of, and I think Ravi can add to that, right, is in a lot of cases, people want the gamer to give minimal amount of information and just go and start sort of getting value, right? In which case, you probably don't want them to enter multiple UPI handles. You don't want them to enter multiple bank accounts, right? But the flip side to that is if you have only one payment instrument, and if that bank is having a downtime, what do you do, right? So it's a balance of both, right? I think what he was explaining, and I'll sync up separately with Ravi also, right? We have some thoughts, and this is something what we obsess about. Right? Like, how do you solve these problems for our merchant? Right? What can we do better for MPL, for others, right? So that they can sort of scale. I don't know whether that answered your question, but yeah, those are some of the things which sort of happen.
No, it absolutely did. Thanks, Amlan. I think great to give the point of view of how we are looking at solving some of these problems that exist. Of course, a UPI problem is a different problem altogether, which I think, absolutely agree with Ravi on that, on the concentration risk there. But I'm hoping that there will be other modes that will come up which would balance it out. But I think from a success rate, downtime, right, overall performance perspective, payments companies like us are constantly thinking about how do we help solve for our merchants. There are a bunch of interesting questions that have come up, so I'll take a few of those. There's one from Hariharan. I'm going to combine both of the questions that he has, and I'll request Shubham to maybe answer this. So, what does your company, and this is with respect to Swiggy, your experience in Swiggy, what does the company do to retain new acquired users who otherwise would not have the need for the platform or would not otherwise use the app? And how serious are you to engage with these low-value yet new acquired users? Do you further segment these into lookalike audiences and ensure retention, which goes beyond the BAU rates? I think you're on mute, Shubham.
Yeah. Let me explain the best I can on this. I think this is this is one of the questions from our meetings in Swiggy. As people keep on talking about this. Like, what do you do with users who acquire and then eventually churn away? Look, fundamentally, if they don't need the platform, then you don't have product market fit. So effectively, your service has to be great and the consumer has to need it. That's the fundamentals of the business. So if you got a massive spike during IPL and your business is really not solving for a need, you might have more fundamental challenges in your business than just growth. So that, keeping that aside, assuming that there is some need, and so you kind of try to do it in two ways. One is your what we at least did at Swiggy was provide great consumer experience, which eventually turns to more repeats or more retention. So, and one of the reasons we kind of turned off Swiggy Success, the campaign that I just talked about, was we were not able to provide great service with that spiky demand. So eventually we would acquire those customers. They would come on the platform. Either they will not be able to order food, or they will get, let's say, their deliveries late, or they'll be. So if you are not able to, let's say, service those customers in the best way possible during IPL, retention anyways is not going to happen. So the first thing that you can really ensure is, while you do a lot of this growth stuff, you actually keep your basics right and make sure that you provide a great experience. Beyond that, you can think of, let's say, creating some wow moments for theirs. For example, if 7 years back when food delivery was still new, if you would actually get a order in 15 minutes, it will be like a
wow moment.
wow moment. So if you're able to create that actually creates retention. What I'm actually what I'm pointing to is stick to basics. While you got this traffic, for these users, really need to create a wow experience, really need to make sure that the experience that you provide is top notch, and that kind of leads to retention. Beyond that, there are growth tactics that you could do, things like cashbacks, which will, let's say, get the customer back even after IPL. Those are things that you could do. But I think those are more icing on the cake. The basics still remain the same. Yeah.
Got it. Interesting. Ravi, do you see a similar trend of, newly acquired but low intent users that come in during IPL for MPL, or is that not the case for gaming?
No, of course, we do get influx of a lot of new users, and obviously the intent is low. So I think in gaming, the most important thing is trust. Especially for real money gaming, where people come to explore the app, but eventually they want to play and they want to win. So the one thing that we focus a lot is to give that delightful experience to the user, wherein if you come when somebody comes as a guest to your house, what do? You make them feel good, you make them feel special. Similarly, when a user comes on our app, we ensure that right from their login to their first gameplay behavior, they experience the whole app, right from login, their first gameplay, their in-game experience, they win or they lose, or they win, their withdrawal experience. All of that has to be very, very seamless. And that is why, to give you an example, we also have free lobbies. You don't always need to wager money on our app to play. You can come as a new user, you can play a bunch of free games, free lobbies, experience it, see how it works, gain that trust, and then you can actually win, and you can win real money with those free lobbies as well. There are features like that. So you play, you don't wager anything, you experience it, you also win, then you withdraw it, and then you see the end-to-end cycle, right? And then you gain trust. The money hits your account, and that's how we win their trust. That's how we prove to them that, look, we are the safest gaming platform. We have all kinds of games that you love playing, be it casual games, card games, cricketing games, whatever you want. So yeah, we have it all, and that's how we win their trust. So I think that's when you kind of instill that trust and faith, and that's when users who also have low intent still say, hey, okay, I'm ready to give you another chance, and I'm ready to now deposit also. So that's how we do it, and there are various ways of hand-holding the user in that journey.
Very interesting. So these free lobbies, free rooms, are these considered to be kind of part of investment for customer acquisition? Do you think of that as part of the customer acquisition funnel? The money you spend, because they are not putting in any money, but then they can win real money, right? So is that how you think in terms of the customer journey, that this is an acquisition cost for you?
Yeah, that is customer lifecycle management cost. So yeah, you can say so.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. Very, very interesting. Thank you, Ravi. That's a great insight. There's also a very interesting question, which is futuristic, which I'm going to ask Ashwin about, how emerging technologies like AI, AR, VR, we've seen Netflix experimenting with it a little bit, right? So I just wanted to understand, how do you look at it playing a role in enhancing the IPL viewing or engagement experience on your platforms? And are there any risk factors involved?
Right. I think it makes for great PR, if let's say a competitor launches a VR experience and you can, I don't know, look around with your phone and see the whole stadium, it's great for PR. But then you talk about the actual consumption experience, where you are sitting in office with your lunch dabba and you're trying to consume entertainment while doing that. I don't think you want to look around the stadium. I think you just want to score upfront, right? So I think the usage rate of these, at least AR, VR features, tends to be very low. Low single digits, to the point where I think you have to ask if you need the PR. If yes, go ahead and tweak it. Users are not going to use it, but people will talk about, oh, look at this, how innovative. So that's one. At least so far, I don't see that changing consumption. I think AI is a much bigger umbrella where, yes, it is starting to affect the way, let's say, we do cataloging, personalization, what content we push to you based on, the signals you gave us last time. But it hasn't had the impact that at least I expected. I'm a big user of, I don't know, GPT and all of those, but I'm not seeing it in the organization. Like, how is OTT changing? I think maybe that's a couple of years away. Maybe if like content can be created with AI, like that can be democratized, maybe the world will change, but it hasn't yet.
As of now, it's still a bit gimmicky.
Yeah.
Somewhat amazing, right, to be sure.
Yeah, I mean, I want to believe that the quality of content that Disney pushes out is very high. So it will take a while for any AI to match up to that. But when it does, I'll be at the forefront, at least in my org, saying that let's get on the hype train.
Right. Absolutely. Thanks, Ashwin. I think there's one question, Amlan, if you'd like to take it. It's about, from a product perspective, does Cashfree offer features around loyalty, cashback, etc.? I'm assuming to help merchants retain. So it could be, products that help giving instant refunds, cashback, etc. So if you want to maybe touch on that question as well.
Okay, so see, at the end of the day, it depends on what kind of a campaign the merchant wants to run. But whatever they can think of, right, we can support from a payments perspective, right? I'm just going to focus on the actual disbursing of the cashback part, right? So, of course, real-time disbursals using UPI, IMPS, right? We can do even cards, right? We can do tokenized cards. If you have tokenized the card, we can pay the card as well, which also actually is true for refunds, right? Instant refunds you can do. There is something which is very, very new, which NPCI has launched, right? It is basically the mobile number and the last 4 digits of the card and the bank name, right? And if you have that, you can actually do an immediate payment using IMPS, right? So, of course, that has not started completely rolling out, but there are 5 or 6 banks which are already doing supporting that, right? So we are already working, our APIs are already live. We've already told our merchants. So as I was saying, whatever is possible, right, and whatever are the new and upcoming things from NPCI, we are plugged into that. We try to ensure that we are first to the market. Right, of course, our competitors also do a good job, right? But the point is, from a cashback perspective, cashbacks as low as like 5 rupees, right? Of course, there are other considerations. If a merchant wants to run a 5 rupee cashback, right, where the ATS average ticket size is about 5 rupees, we make sure how do we sort of monetize that, because if you charge 1 rupee for a 5 rupee payout, right, it actually does not make sense. It's not viable for the merchant. Right? So that's about like 20% FDR, right? So overall, various rails are supported. Most of them are real time, right? And a lot of redundancy, a lot of up-to-date information to the merchant on what is happening. Just to give you an example, right? We recently, in towards March end, we concluded. So one of our partners works with Coca-Cola, right? And so under the bottles, the cap, right? They had a QR code, which was for the shopkeepers to sort of get the incentive, right? So people are doing those kind of innovative things, right? And then so all the payouts, the UPI payouts were actually done via us, right? But that was something very, very interesting, right? A lot of companies are actually working with, say, the HPCLs of the world, trying to give cashbacks for petrol and all, right? So usually these are low ticket items, large volume. So you need more bandwidth, more TPS from the banks, right? So those kind of things we.
Absolutely. In fact, even the, pay to phone number feature, right? So you don't need to even key in your UPI details. So giving a very seamless customer experience. So I think we're again trying to build for all kinds of use cases which are real time, which are low ticket. So thanks Amlan for highlighting that as well. I think we have one question for Ravi, which I'll take. I think we are already beyond our time, but I'm still going to take this question. Ravi, as a product leader, do you also indulge yourself in MPL games during IPL?
We have a policy internally where we don't play on our app. So yeah, not at MPL. Obviously, we have QE builds where while building for it, solving for problems and building products, we do test ourselves, but not on production app.
There you go. Ravi doesn't play MPL because he has policy, but then he would probably love to because MPL games are very addictive. Yeah. But thank you so much. Thanks Ravi. Thanks Amlan. Thanks Shubham. Thanks Ashwin. I think this was a very interesting conversation for me and got a lot to learn. and look forward to, more of these, and also be in touch to figure out what else we can build for you guys as well. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for joining in, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Yeah, all the best. Take care. Bye-bye. Have a good day.